Hi guys, welcome to my coffee show. My name is Jack and today we have another big one. Today we're comparing two grinders, DF64 with my new DF83. We're going to compare a few espresso shots. We're also going to do a pour over. And by the end of this video, I will try to answer the question, should you upgrade from DF64 to DF83? So if you're as excited as myself, definitely click like, subscribe, and let's get ready to rumble! DF83 does not look that much bigger. It's just slightly bulkier, slightly. The shape exactly the same. So both of those grinders are incline. I went for the black color for the DF83. You can also choose the white one. And though this is actually painted on the metal, so there is not a vinyl like with DF64. With DF64 you can get so many colors. Footprint, if you look, DF64 takes less space, but not that much less. 64 weights around what, 7 kg, less than that. DF83 almost twice as much, 10.8, almost 11 kg. When you get DF64, you still need to, or I would strongly recommend to get few of the mods. One that brings the dosing cap, catching cap closer to the chute. You get a grind indicator, because this grinder, well, it's got a grind indicator here, but first of all, it's not visible. The second thing is on the scale here, if you consider 0 where the burrs are near touching, when you get it with the Itamil burrs, your 0 will probably be way beyond the 0. The last thing I got here is this anti-popcorning slow feeder. DF83, it comes exactly as it should be, with the grind indicator, with the slow feeder. It also comes nicely aligned actually. When I first tested it, when I moved to 0, that was exactly where the 0 should be. I also have done an alignment test, burrs alignment test. I will put the links in a description so you can look yourself, but to my eye it looked pretty much very nicely aligned, which you cannot say about DF64. The chute of the DF64, it's much shorter. This one much longer. There is still a little bit of the space, but if you want to reduce that space in between the dosing cup and the chute, you also get that funnel. You put it on top like this. As I mentioned before, I'm not a fan of those plastic cups, so this is my DF64 cup. I dropped it only once, not sure if you can see. I managed to crack it a little bit. I can kind of accept it with DF64 because of the price, but this more premium grinder, I would expect the catching cap to be slightly better. With both of them, you can grind directly into the portafilter, but then you will really have lots of mess. This one is much closer, but it's still not enough. You can use this as a kind of a dosing funnel. I mentioned that DF83 is kind of a more luxury product. And yes, you can feel the nice metal. Everything feels nicely made. You get that, not sure if it's a wood or wooden-like top, but everything works nicely. By the way, you also get a hopper for this grinder. Not saying that DF64 feels cheap, but when you compare to this one, definitely feels cheap. To turn it on, DF64, you've got that switch here. If you have this one here, you can accidentally knock it with your hand. DF83 actually has the switch on the side. I have to mention one thing that I really don't like about DF83, and that's the electric cable. With DF64 the cable is actually underneath, and if you can see, it's nicely secure around with a plastic bit. With DF83 the cable is on the side, so you will be moving this around. There is no protection. Sooner or later, I suspect that can actually damage the cable. Engine power of DF64, 250 watts. DF83, 550 watts. But the biggest difference, obviously, is the size of the burrs. So here, those 64 millimeter burrs. I opened the grinder recently to do some alignments. It was so much mess. The entire section here it was full of coffee grinds. Why? I mean, one of the reasons is the way it's constructed is kind of once the grinds get in here, they cannot get out. The other thing is that the declamper here, it's not perfect. One of the things here that you won't find in DF83 are those springs. When you look into DF83, and that's the grinder that I have been using for the last week. I haven't cleaned it up, just open it and have a look. Those are standard item mill burrs. But how big they are. There are no springs here. There are some screws, but no springs here. The upper burrs is attached on kind of holes on those two bits here. You've got that metal washer in here. And it looks like the declamper actually works much better, and it's also easier to open the grinder. Now the noise test without any bins inside. DF64, DF83. When you turn it on, it jumps. It's so powerful that it jumps and it vibrates a lot. If you put the catching cup here, 18.1 and 18.1 grams. Let's start with DF64. Both of those grinders I put in the zone where I normally am when grinding for espresso. So that's the noise. Yeah, so that's without using the bellow. You see, 17. But remember, I just cleaned this grinder, so it's normal to expect some retention. Now, if I run it again, if I use the bellow, 17.7. And that's the noise. Slightly louder, 17.6, and we've got 18, 0.1 gram. I think the most important for all of us is how the coffee tastes like. So we're going to pull a few shots, 2 from each grinder. For the first one, I have chosen a light roast coffee, and that's the Hard and Graft coffee roaster. Coffee from Honduras. The tasting notes: lemon sherbet, icing sugar, jasmine, and floral honey. I'm going to use a default profile today. There is a pre-infusion up to 4 bars of pressure. Then it ramps up to about 8.8, and then there's a slow decline. I changed a few things here, so I will put 18 grams of coffee in, but because it's a light roast, I want 44 grams of coffee out. As a default profile, the temperature is set for 90 degrees. Here, I put it on a 92 because it's a light roast coffee. I want both shots to be within 3 seconds of each other. Let's start with DF64. It was so tricky, this coffee. So tricky, it took me so many attempts. I'm on the setting number 5 and the shot took 38 seconds. Well, and everything here as it should be, so the flow of espresso, flow of water, pressure. Kind of a floral and little bit of the chocolate aroma. So cheers, guys. Very good. Body, it's thin. There is a sweetness, nice sourness. Would I say it's a lemon sherbet? I'm not really sure what sherbet is. Is it the same as a sorbet? There are some sour notes. I can taste sweetness, jasmine, possibly. Something floral, yes. Honey, maybe. Let's see what the refractometer says, and then we will pull a DF83. 8.2 TDS, and that makes, well, over 20% extraction. Good, there was some channeling, but eventually we end up with something. Took 37 seconds. Setting number 16. Shot, I have to say, looks a little bit better crema. Smells exactly the same. Cheers. There is more body to this shot. The tasting notes kind of similar, but there was more clarity with those SSP multi-purpose burrs. I would say it leans more towards sweet, toffee, chocolatey, rather than sourness. But it eliminates that harshness on both sides. So it's not too deep in a chocolate, it's not too deep in the fruitiness. What we end up with here, it's a very enjoyable drink. It may be lacking a little bit, I'm not saying there is no clarity, but it may be lacking a little bit of the clarity. But the notes that are here, there is more music, more harmony to those notes. Let's check the refractometer. We've got 8.38 TDS and 20.48. So now the time for a second shot. The same coffee roaster, but this time it will be a coffee from India, and that's a kind of a more medium roast, caramel, plums and chocolate. I lower the temperature on this end to 90 degrees. I reduce the ratio, so it will be a proper 1:2 ratio. Let's do a DF64 first again. So we've got a shot. It took what, 29-30 seconds. See a little bit of drama here. So that's the setting number 7 on a DF64. Smells of almonds, sweetness, chocolate. Cheers. There is that deep dark chocolate flavor here. There is a sweetness in the background. Caramel, yes, but kind of a dark caramel. I can taste almonds as well. That plum flavor, not sure. There is a hint of some fruitiness there. Let's quickly check the refractometer and then we do a DF83. 9.67 TDS. Obviously this is 1:2 ratio, so that's 19.3. Wow, so much crema. Look at that. It took 27 seconds. The previous one was 29. Possibly some channeling here and there. End up on the setting number 16. The shot looks amazing. I mean, previous one wasn't bad either, but this one looks better if you like crema. Definitely the almonds, but there is something else. Not really sure what, but kind of smells a little bit of like a sourness. Cheers. Slightly more body. Tasting notes similar, but here there is a bit more of that sourness. If I had to choose where I can taste more plums, I would say this one. Again, there is more harmony in the shot. Less and less of that harshness. The tastes are similar. It's just that the balance. That's the word I'm looking for. There is more balance in this shot. The previous one I said there was that dark chocolate bitterness. Here there is a bitterness, there is a sourness, but shot it's kind of more in the middle. I have to say I like DF83 more. With that kind of a medium roast coffee with those flavor notes, it just tastes better. Let's see what the refractometer says. 9.57, 19, so about the same. We still have to do a pour over. So very quickly, very simple recipe. I will be using my good old size to V60. 15 grams of coffee in, 225 grams of water. I will be using water of temperature of 98 degrees. I will put 45 grams of water first. That will be the blooming phase, and that will take 2 minutes. After that 2 minutes, I will put the remaining water. Hard and graft coffee, but this time coffee from China. And that's a naturally processed coffee. Supposedly light medium. It should be brown sugar, sweet peach and orange flavor. That's the coffee bed from DF64. My God, today, honestly, maybe because I was realigning the burrs on the DF64, all my settings are completely different. It took 2 minutes to extract. I can smell oranges. I can smell that it is a naturally processed coffee. Oranges, yes. There is a little bit of the bitterness. There is a sweetness there. I have to say I like it. It's a good cup. Peaches I cannot taste, but sweetness, so I can say brown sugar, yes. Almost 1.4 TDS. And that makes 18.5% extraction. Okay, so that's DF83. And as you can see here, we have a problem. It was very difficult to find the settings for that. Why? It was running very fast for the first like 3/4, and then it was clogging, and I was increasing. I've noticed there was still lots of dust even on those high settings. Burrs are aligned, so maybe they just need to be seasoned. That could be an issue. I can also smell oranges. Cheers. There might be a hint of oranges in a taste. I wouldn't say it's a bad cup, but I enjoy the DF64 pour over more. Everything was there. Here there is lacking of that smoothness that I got from the DF64, and also the oranges were more present there. Let's see what the refractometer says. We've got 1.33. Okay, not far behind. So guys, if you are still here, definitely click like and subscribe. It took me 4 hours. Yeah, precisely 4 hours to do this video. Hopefully it won't be that long. So guys, my final conclusions. As I mentioned before, DF83, it does something to the coffee. It does something to the coffee that is different from my other grinders. It kind of takes away some of the sometimes unpleasant notes, like too bitter or too sour. It moves the flavor notes more towards toffee, more towards chocolatiness than the fruitiness. Even with the fruitier coffees, that's how I can taste it. But we end up with a very nice balanced shots, full of flavor, with some body, some clarity, and that pleasantness. SSP multi-purpose burrs, as you know, those are the burrs for the clarity. And what clarity means, lots of flavors, all the flavors magnified, and the good flavors, but sometimes also those unpleasant flavors. Often they are lacking in harmony. So should you choose DF83 over DF64? I think yes. The build quality is better. You don't have to play with some mods or anything like that. Everything works really nicely. There are a few things that I mentioned at the beginning that I would like them to change, but overall very enjoyable grinder. It might be missing some of the clarity for people who are looking for lots of clarity. Possibly there are some burrs that can improve. We are comparing here Itamill with SSP burrs. 64 burrs are very popular, so you have lots to choose from. DF83, there are some. If you really want the fruitiness, you may not like it, but everything else DF83 it's really good for. Next video we will be probably unboxing and tasting this one. It arrived. Then we will compare DF83 with Niche. But for today, thank you very much for watching. My name is Jack. This is my coffee show, and hopefully I will see you soon. Thank you. Bye.